The following program is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. You can request podcast topics, enjoy exclusive RPG and video content, and more. Even just $1 a month gets you gameplay episodes a week early and makes you officially cool. Just like
Rob, a guy from Ohio. This is the Trash Elite. Distributed KTL, DG, Passion Killer 711, Kitty Holbrook, Thomas Austin Jr., Drake Starstorm. You ever forget your intro? Happened to me. I'm Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy.
Hey.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and today we are stealing from the All Elite Arcade Podcast's mailbag to answer your questions for Evil Uno and the Chugs.
Yep. We are once again committing a federal podcast crime and stealing their mail.
They're a good podcast, though. Go watch them. Evil Uno, as I was doing research for a new crop of questions, remains my good twin. Before we get into that, let's talk about what's crumpin'. I think this is going to be a brief one. What's crumpin' with you?
My real daytime job is stressful, and I haven't done much fun stuff recently because it's stressful.
We at least got to role play again last night.
Yes, that was really nice.
That's good. I don't remember if I said this last time or not. I finished Metaphor Fantazio as far as that's ever going to get finished. I didn't care for it.
That's caring a lot.
It was a fine game that I played 80 hours of and then tapped out.
It took you that long to determine ultimately it wasn't a game made for you.
People kept telling me it was just about to get good.
Okay, a new rule. If you have to play more than 5 hours, and I think I'm being very generous, perhaps overly so, of a video game before it gets good, that's a bad video.
Well, it's an Atlas game. You have to wait for at least the 10-hour mark. Like, that's just being fair. They operate on a different timetable.
No, I said what I said.
Nah.
I will stand on that.
Ultimately, I didn't like a lot of the plot elements. And I think the way the calendars in these games work is not for me. I don't need that pressure. And I don't want to replay an 80-hour game twice to find all the secrets. So I'm good. I don't want to do that.
I weirdly would be fine with that, but it has to be an 80-hour game that's like fun.
Yeah, you're not a turn-based RPG guy. So
like Elden Ring, I've replayed that several times to get different endings.
Yeah.
But after the first playthrough, it doesn't take me nearly 80 hours.
Well, but Elden Ring is going to be different each time you play it. There's not, especially with the way Metaphor handles the job class system, the archetypes, you don't really get that different of playthroughs.
That's, man, look, ascended Buddha-like modern robot. Not for me. I'm sure someone's having a great time with it. More power to them. The me who existed back in the day when this podcast started, he would have some shit to say about that sentence.
Yeah, I have feelings on it, but like it was also good enough that it manage to coast me through for 80 hours. So anyway, let's get to these questions. These video game related questions, they are paraphrased and often slightly retailored to fit our show, because we are not Chugs and or Evil Uno. And I'm still crediting everyone who asked because that seems appropriate.
Even when it's tiny and doesn't matter, it's still nice to give people credit for their stuff.
Yeah. Let's roll in with a question from Radclaw. What are your favorite box arts of all time, and are there any games you love that you think have terrible box arts? Box arts have gone out of fashion a bit.
Yeah, I can't recall the last time I even saw a box art for like a new game.
So this applies to like title cards as well, if you will. And that's interesting because those can change.
Based on what's happened in the game.
Well, yeah, like Marvel Rivals or Warframe update with each new season. But also there are a couple that just update to hopefully sell more games.
Well, if we're counting title cards, then it is absolutely a Warframe title card is worst for me. I believe the question was favorite, but just to get it out of the way, it's for a good cause, but the Warframe title card that was just bright fucking eye-searing pink, that was unpleasant to look at. As far as favorites, I don't know. I don't know that video games box art has ever drawn me in enough to like be a favorite thing. You know what I mean?
Yes and no.
I guess I would have to say like the Mega Man ones because they're ridiculous and I love them.
And that's kind of where I am at on favorites because, you know, a game, I don't like shoot 'em ups. I don't. When shoot 'em up mechanics occur in games I am playing, there's a reason I never got very far in Nier Automata. Because that game starts with a shoot 'em up section. Although I'm told that only happens if you mess up and play it again, but I didn't do that, so I don't know why I got that. Regardless, I hate him. But one of my favorite box arts of all time is the SNES Phalanx box art with the old man playing the banjo for no reason.
Some of the box art hyping other content on this channel. Some of the box art on various games covered in violent profiles has been fucking wild.
Yeah, and you know, when I was a kid, the box art did more for me to assess whether or not I wanted to play a game. You know, going to the video store and checking out what all was there. But as I've aged and I do less video store browsing and I learn more about what I want from a game from the internet or just literally the browse features on whatever storefront.
I guess I've always sort of gamed by recommendation.
Yeah.
Even my games that I loved as a kid were mostly games that I got recommended from someone else. So I don't have that.
I have a pretty low floor and ceiling for box arts. I'm pretty box art permissive. I love ridiculous shit.
I think the worst thing a box art can be is visually, like, physically unpleasant to look at, but the second worst is boring.
Yeah, and then samey, because there was that, what was it, Xbox 360 era, where
it was always a guy staring directly away from camera.
And then, like, scenery in the background, yeah. It just is kind of lame. I don't know. Don't make your game indistinguishable.
If I can remove all the references, like words and stuff from your title, from your box, and then all the box of 5 other games, and then swap them around, and the average person who played 3 of those games can't tell me which one is which, that's a problem, actually.
Yeah, but, you know, for some people, that's what they thrive on. They're like, oh, this game, they make that subconscious connection. This game looks like this game that I liked. Maybe I should pick it up because they have similar box art.
That is why they do that.
You know what I do have to complain about is, and this didn't used to bother me, but like we've come to an era where you can do this now, so I'm bothered. Your box art needs to match your product.
You know what? I don't, for box art, I'm more permissive, but for me, it's trailers.
Sure.
And like,
well, look, I can go on a long rant about trailers, but like, there are so many games that have box art that's like cool pixels or, you know,
big fantasy adventure, or
yeah, or even like these crazy rendered 3D models. Don't even get me started on the lazy ass AI ones. AI art is a complicated minefield. I'm not getting into the depths of it, but I hate it when you produce those AI art covers and I'm looking at 4 pixels worth of cat going on an adventure.
It is rough. It's rough out here.
I just be consistent because, okay, now
I would rather you give me a picture of the 4 pixels worth of cat.
Yes, because especially if you're a smaller studio, so you can't afford to put up a trailer on the Xbox store, for example, this is where I see it the most. I'm going to be really pissed and just refund your game if I buy it and it's not what was represented to me on the box. And sometimes it's not even what you would think, where they're like trying to sell you on really realistic graphics. They just use a completely different crappy art style. Why? Just use the same crappy art style you already had. That's what your game is. Or get a not crappy one.
Well, I mean, if they could do that.
Then just be consistent is all I ask. Anyway, we move on to a question from Annie. Who, in your opinion, is the greatest video game villain?
Oh, it's gotta be like one of the Final Fantasy guys.
Really?
In terms of like, because it's not my personal favorite. It's greatest. It's most iconic. You know, holistically, coolest, most badass, most iconic, most, you know, it really held in gaming culture. And for that money, it's like Bowser is too silly. And a bunch of the other a bunch of really classic games have incredible villains who you don't remember once you've destroyed them. But like Kefka, Sephiroth, Kuja, these people persist in gaming understanding.
That's an interesting point, and it makes me take that question apart. Who is the greatest video game villain? I would agree with your assessment. That's what the question is looking for. What is your opinion on who is the greatest video game villain? That's interesting. Because, we often differentiate between what is the best and what is your favorite, which you're doing right here. But I guess this question becomes, what is your favorite best video game villain?
Yeah, like what is of the great video game villains, which one do you like the best?
I'm having a hard time thinking of a villain that isn't either really complicated or not from Final Fantasy. I guess Dr. Wily, I'm not saying this is
he's too goofy.
No, he's
It's the same reason, because Bowser is indisputably more iconic than any Final Fantasy villain. But he is half the time he's playing tennis with them.
Right.
So I don't know that he gets to be that guy.
But I'm struggling to consider like a video game villain that is prominent enough and also actually a good villain that isn't from a Final Fantasy.
Like a lot of video game villains are really good villains for the story the game is trying to tell, but they are Final Fantasy villains have the freedom to win a lot more than a lot of other video game series villains. And most narratives in video games are very protagonist focused. So you don't get a lot of the really iconic villains that like comic books produces. Sure. And I'm not counting any comic book villains who are in video games. That's a different question. If it's a villain who originated in a video game, who is iconic, who has stuck around, I guess you could make arguments for, like, Liquid Snake, maybe? But, like, even he's only really a villain in one game and of a series.
That's complicated.
He's, yes, but, like, pretend doesn't count. And most of the Final Fantasy villains are as well, but Final Fantasy villains get shit like Kingdom Hearts and Dissidia, and they become popular culture, and they become franchise players without softening.
Yeah, it's a really... And I think you're lending support to what I was saying, basically, because I'm trying to think of, okay, my joke answer, my spiteful answer was going to be someone from God of War, or someone from The Witcher. Game series I'm not fond of, but I recognize the people love.
I think if you were going to pick that, I don't know.
I don't know who those people are.
Well, so like Odin from the most recent God of War game, he's a real asshole, and he's Odin, so obviously he's iconic. But I don't know that he has the staying power. It's too new.
Well, and today I learned Odin was the bad guy in the newest God of War game.
Yeah. Before him, it was Baldur.
Well, regardless, today I learned twice now. Yeah. You've done it twice.
That doesn't surprise me that you don't know much about the God of War game.
Well, no, or any popular game. But then when you get to stuff that I do know a bit more about...
You know what? I am discounting one group of people who it would be weird for me to discount. Souls game villains.
Sure, but they're not so active. In fact, I think actually I'm going to give you an answer that we will share.
Okay.
Are you prepared for this?
I'm ready.
It is an incredibly popular video game. Mm-hmm. It has an incredibly iconic villain. And the thing I was looking for was hateability. What makes them a good villain is when you don't love them, you want them to fucking die.
Which isn't actually true for most Final Fantasy villains, and that's a good point.
Thank you, I am right.
I have a guess.
I'd love to hear your guess.
No. I want yours first.
Okay. I am speaking of, and my vote for this is Micah from
Yes, I was right. 2. I don't want to give it to him because I hate him so much. That is the whole reason I didn't say him right off bat rip, is because I hate him so much, I don't want to give him his flowers.
And I think by dint of that, he wins, unfortunately.
He is the worst human being.
Terrible. I have never...
He has no redeeming qualities. He's not even cool.
No, he's a wiener.
Great job. Excellent work.
Yeah, great villain. So that's going to be my vote. That's not my favorite. My favorite is Kefka. He's tattooed on my arm. But, yup. Question from Courtney, who wrote into a show, not this one. Who do I have to murder to get you guys to play Chained Together? Courtney. Me. Oh, God.
I don't want to play that game. It looks awful.
It does look pretty insufferable, but it's also only like $5. Look,
it's not about that.
All right.
So
I was not expecting this controversial of an opinion, this aggressive of a stance. So my hair's a little blown back.
I like what has colloquially been called friend slop of all sorts. The one where you're playing the little robot weebos whose name I've forgotten.
Rebo.
The one where you're playing the orange jumpsuit people whose name I've forgotten. Lethal Company?
Yes, Company.
Just games where it's fun and funny, and like the game is punishingly hard and unfair, and the fun comes from hanging out with your friends. I get that. I understand it. Chained Together is a frustration simulator, like a fucking Bennett Foddy video game, but the frustration simulator comes from your friends. That shit sounds like fucking the cooking one. It sounds like a game designed to break up a marriage. I don't want to play it with another person I like.
All right, well, there's your answer. Next is a question from Oliver. What has been your favorite Two Nerds podcast memories or episodes?
We just had our big anniversary year.
10 years, yeah, how about that?
So there's a lot of answers in that anniversary year where we went back and looked at some of our favorite moments from this little tiny show that a few people watch that we very much value all of you.
Yeah, a couple dozen is.
It's really... I'm very happy that anyone has ever given a shit about something I've said. Thank you. But like it's for me, it's the times when the podcast has gotten the closest to our conversations that happen off the podcast. The reason I suggested we do a podcast is just when it becomes a freewheeling sort of free association yap fest that is, I am sure, boring to everyone else but us, but I think it's so good and funny that I had to have it preserved.
Yeah, the weirdly kind of directionless ones, the ones where I have recently had a series of nosebleeds or am sick, the ones with the titles that don't make any sense, like Nostalgia and the Coons.
Or, what is it? Mobile Gaming in Junior.
Yeah, those stand out. Pictures of Spider-Man.
They when it's the closest to the friendship I have with my possum companion here off mic, those are my favorite moments.
Yeah, I'd have to stick with those as well. Like, basically the best podcasts we do are the ones where we end it and I go, that was a really good podcast, or that was a terrible podcast.
No one will watch
this. No one should watch this.
What are we doing here? Yeah. I love those.
Yeah.
That's why they'll keep happening, even though I know they're terrible.
Yeah, we have to indulge ourselves every now and then. Yeah, I think that answers that. Curtis is next. If you were to develop your own video game, what art style would you choose?
Is this separately, or are we doing this together?
No, these are all intended to be separately. We just happen to have similar answers.
If I'm developing a video game in that I am, heading up a studio that has people who know how to make video games on it, I'd probably search for something like... I wouldn't need the most modern fucking I can see the reflections in their sclera level, but something like a BioWare game, because that's the kind of game I would make if given money. If I am developing the video game a la an Undertale, if I'm doing it, I don't fucking know. Text-based RPG? I can't do art.
I know a guy who would help you out with that, just for the record.
Whatever he wants.
For me, the question depends on the game, and I have a lot of game ideas. There's a couple of games that have come out recently that are like Police Simulator or something like that. It's very close to a game I wanted to make called Small Town Cop, that had a branching story, and you could have time just patrolling the beat. You were going to have a button that you could hassle people. It was very important, kind of like the one in that one Evil Dead game that just made Bruce Campbell say things. But that would only really work in a Grand Theft Auto or Watch Dogs style 3D open world environment. I don't think that game is anywhere near close to what I'd want it to be if it's pixel art. But if I'm making a turn-based RPG or like a platformer, yeah, those are pixel art. If I'm making a fighting game, that might even be pixel art. Depends on what I want out of it, but it really depends on the game. A lot of them would probably default to pixel art. A, because I could make it. At least I think I can. And
look at the adorable little mans you see on so many of our videos.
They're all there now. They're all always there. Those are by me. I do those freehand as much as one can. Yeah, and especially there's a couple of RPGs that I want to use RPG Maker to make, but I don't want it to look like a cheap RPG Maker game. You can make a good RPG Maker game. The original Off, I am almost positive, was an RPG Maker game. And it had a very avant-garde style, and it didn't look like what amounts to a 32-bit asset flip. Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, I'd love to do that, and it will be pixel art, but geez, that's a lot of legwork, and I'm old. Thank you, Curtis.
We heard your question.
You were heard, Curtis. Hunter is next. And we kind of touched on this a little bit. What is the biggest factor for you when picking a game to purchase? Story, graphics, mechanics, word of mouth?
I guess word of mouth. Just having talked about it over this podcast, I didn't think that was the case until now. But looking at the games in my life that have really gotten me to play them, it's been someone whether it be like a personal friend or a member of my family, or like a YouTuber whose opinion I at least vaguely trust. It's been someone saying, hey, this is worth your time, but you should try it. Has been the most reliable indicator of me actually picking a game up to try it.
My tastes are aggressively nuanced, quite against my will. As I'm discovering, the older I get, the more nuanced they get, and the more difficult it is for me to take anyone's opinion. Because something that seems exactly up my alley. Metaphor is a great example of this. I'm kind of glad I already talked about it on this episode. Metaphor takes Persona 5 and Final Fantasy 5, two games I really love, and smooshes them together. You would think that means I love this game. And yet, it managed to be underwhelming for me.
So for you, what is it?
It's a difficult combination of research. I might hear the train is in the background. I'm sure you guys can hear him. It's so quiet. Hello, train, third nerd. Long may you reign. We could stop and just wait for the train to pass and then record after. But first of all, It takes a while. And secondly, that would mean I have to edit this show. And you guys know I hate editing this show. If I hear about a game from someone, I need to do research into it. Look into it. If it has a demo, try that out. Watch the trailer. Check reviews from other places. Try to get a rough aggregate. Check its tags to see what it's like. Maybe look up video reviews of like, what's that one Before You Buy? Very popular series. I get that a lot, and they're usually pretty accurate. It unfortunately takes a lot out of me to try and agree to paying money for a game. Now, if the game is super cheap, like sub $10, sure, whatever, I don't care. I'll just buy it. Who cares? It's $10. But yeah, it takes a lot for me. I can't just have any one thing. It's not usually the graphics. Unless the graphics are bad, like Mario 64 bad, or I do not like the Atari throwback style.
Yeah, you threw it too far back. You've thrown out a disc. You have to go to the hospital now. Throw it back a little less.
Yeah, that's too... That wasn't my era, first of all. I was a little bit too young for that. I mean, I did play some Atari, but it didn't wow me like Nintendo did. And indie games, this was more the case about 15 years ago, but there are a glut of indie games that have that style, and I'm just not... I don't want to play that. I don't want to look at that. But other than exceptions like that, and even Mario 64 looks better than a lot of early PlayStation titles. I'm game. What do you got? Let's see it happen. Now there are some like Xbox era games and even Xbox 360 where it's like really muddy and bad textures and zero draw distance, where I'm basically walking through soup, brown soup. I'm not as interested in those, but mostly the graphics don't have anything to do with it. Yeah, that's what I got, Hunter. Thanks for writing into a different show. Neil, who I'm going to assume is Neil Peart.
Okay, sure.
May you rest in peace. What are some game design pet peeves of yours? For example, forced stealth sections in non-stealth games. And that's a good one, Neil. You, as the greatest drummer in history, have great opinions on bad things to force into a game.
I have an incredibly niche one that I'm prepared to rant about a little bit.
All right, I talked a bunch. Take over.
So,
I'll have to sip my coffee.
In many video games, there's a thing called an escort mission. Now, controversially, I don't actually hate those. I think they provide a narrative beat that is necessary for many video game stories, and they can be done quite well. In many escort missions, the person you're escorting is either a moron, bad pathing, foolish AI, or way too aggressive, so that you have to run and save them, and it's stressful. Again, in the right circumstances, those can be okay. No, it's much more niche. The thing I get mad at is you designed the fucking video game. You know how fast my character walks. You know how fast my character runs. Pick one of those two speeds. The character I'm escorting goes one of those two speeds. If I can't match pace with the character I'm escorting, it is the single most infuriating aspect of any escort mission ever. Pick one. Either as fast as my character walks and we have a nice little lore walk, or as fast as my character runs and we book it. I don't care which, just pick one. That fucking awful half speed that's halfway between both means that I'm always either lagging behind or shooting forward and having to loop back, and both are infuriating.
Got it out of your system?
Yes.
That's valid, by the way. I would say maybe just slower, like a hair than your max run speed, with obstacles. That way you can defeat the obstacles and still catch up to the subject without them getting too far away. For me, cough, metaphor, cough, and a lot of games, if you are going to advertise yourself in any way, whether that's through literal advertisement or the way the game is presented or all of the options available, to be very customizable. And what you mean is there are, I'm going to make up numbers, 10 build options. 3 of those are real. The other ones are traps for suckers. Fuck all the way off.
You are in general not a fan of games where you have the ability to accidentally build a non-functional poop chute. Because no matter how much he tries, there is about a 45% likelihood he'll accidentally do that.
Oh, you're being generous to me. It's way higher.
At least the first time through a game.
I don't like following build guides because I like to have the freedom to explore on my own. I'm not even talking about being optimal. It can be annoying, but that's my thing to deal with. I'm talking about
being functional.
Being functional, yeah. So what I imagine happens is they design 10 builds, they notice 3 of these builds are OP, instead of making those builds less good, for whatever reason, sometimes it's because if you make them less good, they become lame. They instead balance the difficulty of the game against those best builds. And the worst of those builds, the least optimal, I should perhaps say, end up becoming worthless.
Like a poison build in most things that a FromSoft game makes.
Dark Souls 2 is a great example. I was playing a mage, and I started doing the DLC, and I had to switch to a warrior. Now, if I were get gooder, maybe I wouldn't have had to. But, like...
One of the things I love about Night Rain is that poison builds work. They just work.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. But this wasn't even like I did a niche build. I was just a regular wizard. I just shot my little arcane splashies, and I kicked ass through most of the game. It was really fun to play Dark Souls 2, but then I had to switch because I didn't have enough damage or durability to get through anything. And that's not fun for me. Also, Dark Souls 2, rather uniquely, has a cap on how much you can grind. So, of all of the Souls games to have this problem, that one is the worst.
Yeah, because you can accidentally lock yourself into a losing run.
And it's a similar thing that I ran into with Metaphor, is because I had spent my time and resources checking out a couple of other options, it meant I didn't get the most good options. Now, does this mean I can't finish the game? No, probably not. But it does mean I don't get to check things out because of the calendar.
I think this might be a controversial stance. If you have a game that has a wealth of different build options where you can do a bunch of different stuff, a bunch of different ways, anything from like an Elden Ring, from Soft, a bunch of different stats you can pick, a bunch of different weapons you can try, to like a Path of Exile, fully like no one who's built normal really will enjoy this. This is only for the weirdos level map of tiny little perks. Just let people respec.
Yes.
Just let them.
Yes.
What sin is there? Just let people respec. It's fine, actually.
Even if I have to go get a resource like an Elden Ring,
so long as that's not a limited resource. Yeah. Even if I have to go grind for it, just let people have fun. Actually, yeah. It's fine.
Oh man, I say this not as somebody who was trying some stupid build and wanted it to be good. That's not my point. If you are intentionally building your character poorly, if you're going into a Souls game and going, you know what, max luck.
If you're running a challenge run, that's the choice you made. Yeah. You chose to do the Nuzlocke.
But like, I'm also not so bad at the game that I have issues. For everything but the final boss, I beat post-Radon patch vanilla Elden Ring with a flail, which until the near DLC patches was considered one of the worst weapons in the game. It wasn't even one of the good flails. It was just a regular flail. And that little bastard just ran around too much, and they didn't give me my horsey, so I couldn't, break his knees like I like to do.
He had to swap to
I had to swap to a long-range magic build, which was the other half of my build. I just needed more of it. So, like, I don't need to be OP. I, in fact, don't want to be OP. I don't like that. But, yeah, this is, if you're gonna pretend to have all these options, please make the options you're pretending to have viable.
If you're going to take me to the buffet, you don't get to say, this is the only plate you get. Figure it out blind.
Right. And it's the same thing, like, I'll change this metaphor to Pokemon slightly. Obviously, if I go in and I'm going a solo type run, I've decided to make things harder on myself. But if I've got, type coverage that's pretty decent, and you construct a battle that's like, oh, if you don't specifically have a dark type Pokemon, of which there is one in this game, cough, fire, cough, diamond and pearl, then you're going to have a really rough time. That's stupid. You're stupid and you shouldn't have done that. Do we want to do one more question to end on a higher note before we end this podcast?
Well, you can see the questions. You tell me.
Do you want to give him another 5 minutes or so of podcast?
All right, there we
go. Raphael, the Ninja Turtle, writes in, or the guy from Soul Calibur. You know what? Both. Raphael's write in. Do you have any favorite game development studios?
Yeah. It's got to be FromSoft at this point, right?
FromSoft is up there. Without the weights on them, BioWare is up there.
Yeah, if they just go make the video game, they're usually pretty good at making the video game.
With the exception of roughly half of Starfield and their MMOs, which they won't stop doing. I also enjoy Bethesda's games.
Bethesda's MMOs and the half of Starfield that did take me longer to become disenchanted by, but still happen, are the reason why I didn't list that they were But
I think if they had been putting out new games in their franchises this whole time, that like of their RPG franchises, I think we'd still be playing them and be fine. But they at least released Fallout like 11 years ago.
And it's just been MMOs?
It's just been MMOs since then, until Starfield, which happened to be kind of a stinker.
Black Isle / Obsidian. I will almost always try anything they make.
Every new game that you guys, you can go back. I don't want you to, but you can go back and listen to my podcast about Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of complaints with that game. But I really liked Avowed. And it's not a perfect game or anything. I wouldn't even put it close, is what I mean when I say that. No game is perfect. But I can see all the improvements. And that makes me excited for Outer Worlds 2.
Yeah, like...
They keep getting better.
And they're just reliable. I'm gonna try it. I might not always love it, but you have my buy-in. I'll buy the game.
For me, this is more of a publisher than a development studio, but I'm usually more interested in what Raw Fury and Devolver Digital put out.
Devolver Digital I am absolutely familiar with, and that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I'll see something and I go, oh, that's not for me. But if it looks like it's for me, it probably is. From them. And I guess solo developers I have a lot of faith in.
Indies are king at this point. Like, AAA studios keep taking L's to one guy in his basement.
Yeah.
And good. Team Cherry is 3 people, and half the games industry saw Silksong come out and went, oh, we'll just delay. It's fine, actually. We're not getting in the ring with the champ. It's all right.
Dude, even I, who did not like Hollow Knight, am a little curious about Silksong. There's builds, and hopefully none of them are secretly bad.